This is police body cam footage of 75-year-old matriarch Donna Adelson being surrounded by officers on an airport jet bridge attempting to flee to Vietnam with a one-way ticket. The reason she's running is the direct result of a family court ruling. When Florida state law professor Dan Markel won a custody order that blocked his ex-wife from relocating their 2 toddlers to Miami, her wealthy family realized their money couldn't buy a Leon County judge. So instead of filing an appeal, Donna Adelson and her son Charlie bypassed the legal system entirely, paying 2 hitmen $100,000 in moldy, washed cash to assassinate Dan in his own driveway.
On the murder of law professor Dan Markel.
At the Dan Markel, a brilliant law professor and a loving father who is dead because he wanted to be with his children.
Today, we are examining this exact family court docket that triggered the hit, the FBI wiretaps that exposed the cover-up, and how an untouchable family finally hit a legal wall. Dan Markel was a law professor at Florida State University. Smart, respected, the kind of person who spent his career studying justice. He was married to Wendi Adelson, a fellow attorney, for 6 years. They had 2 little boys together, Benjamin and Lincoln. Then, one day, Dan came home from a business trip to an empty house. Wendi had taken the boys. She'd stripped the furniture out, and she left the divorce papers waiting for him on the bed. Wendi wasn't just leaving Dan. She was trying to get back to Miami, back to her tight, wealthy family. Her father, Harvey, her brother, Charlie, a periodontist, and her mother, Donna. 75 years old, controlling, obsessed with her grandsons. So Wendi filed an emergency motion asking the court to let her move the boys 400 miles away from Tallahassee to South Florida. Therefore, if she won, Dan would become a long-distance father in his own sons' lives. But the judge looked at the case and ruled the opposite way. Dan was the devoted primary caregiver. A 400-mile move would have gutted his rights as a father, so the court denied the relocation outright. That should have been the end of it. A judge made a ruling. In most families, that's where the story stops. But Donna Adelson did not accept no. She wanted control over her grandsons so badly that Dan had to go back to court a second time. This time asking the judge to force Donna's visits to be supervised because he said she was turning the boys against him. And then Dan pushed even further. He filed motions accusing Wendi of hiding money during the divorce. He suggested both Wendi and her own divorce lawyer should be disbarred for how they'd handled the case. Every one of those filings was a door closing, and for a family used to money opening every door in their lives, a closing door wasn't something they knew how to survive. When I was studying this case, I realized that this was just an ugly divorce. Painful, expensive, but ordinary. Custody battles get ugly. People say cruel things about each other in family court every single day. Surely it would end the way most of them do, with a settlement, a schedule, 2 exhausted parents moving on. But behind the scenes, the family had already tried the legal way and failed. Court records show they'd offered Dan $1 million just to walk away from his custody rights entirely. He said no. He wanted his sons. That refusal is the hinge this entire case swings on. Because once money couldn't buy the outcome, and once the court had already ruled against them twice, the relocation denial, then the supervised visits order, the family stopped playing by family court's rules altogether. On July 18, 2014, Dan Markel dropped his 2 sons off at daycare like he did every morning. Then he pulled into his own garage. He was shot twice in the head at point-blank range, sitting in his car. The investigation eventually traced the murder back through Charlie Adelson's girlfriend, a woman named Katherine Magbanua, who acted as the go-between. She connected Charlie to 2 Latin Kings gang members, Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera, who carried out the killing for $100,000. Much of that cash came from Donna, money she'd washed by hand so thoroughly that the men complained it arrived wet and moldy.
Did we have it right? Were you the middleman between the shooter and Charlie Adelson?
Yes, ma'am.
Who solicited you to become involved in this?
Charlie.
Who was he to you at that time?
We were dating at that time.
Garcia is your child's father, right?
Yes.
Why did you agree when Charlie asked you to enlist somebody to harm someone? Why did you agree to do that?
Oh, at that time, Charlie knew that I was going through financial situations, so I guess he thought, hey, you can make some money.
You needed the money?
Yes, ma'am. There was an envelope that Charlie had given me one day that I went over to his house, and he told me not to open it, and that he had worn gloves to close it. And
June, did you provide Garcia with any money for expenses associated with that June trip?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you get the money from to give to Garcia?
From Charlie.
Okay, how much money was it?
From my recollection, it was a couple $100, less than $5, maybe.
So this was just for like gas and whatever was needed to get to Tallahassee and back?
Yes, ma'am. I just
And
didn't
then,
know.
in the most chilling detail of the entire case, within days of Dan's murder, Wendi legally changed her son's last names from Markel to Adelson and moved them to Miami.
Ma'am, did you change your children's names after Dan Markel was killed?
About a year after I did.
In what way did you change their names?
I changed their last name and I changed my older son's middle name.
Okay. And you changed their last name from Markel to what?
To mine.
Adelson.
Mm-hmm. From the beginning, I was scared when I put them in school, and so I didn't legally change their name until a year after, but I was socially using my name for them.
Yeah.
The exact outcome the judge had denied her, she achieved it anyway, just not through the court. For years, it looked like it worked. The family lived like they'd won. The case only cracked because of an FBI sting known as the bump. An undercover agent approached Donna Adelson on the street, posing as a blackmailer demanding payment to stay quiet about the murder. Her panic afterward triggered a wave of wiretapped phone calls between her and Charlie. Calls where she spoke in code so thin it barely qualified as code, calling the murder payments the TV repair that cost $5,000.
So my role in the operation was of a gang member, and what I was instructed to do was to contact and bump Donna Adelson.
What does bump mean?
A bump is a law enforcement operation during which an undercover agent or an undercover police officer would conduct a face-to-face meeting or encounter with a subject or a person of interest in an investigation.
All right, so you were asked to approach Donna Adelson. Is that what you did?
I was instructed to walk up to her and engage her in a small discussion as to why I was meeting with her, and then eventually handing her a flyer.
One by one, the people around her flipped. Rivera talked first. Garcia and Magbanua were sentenced to life. And in November 2023, a Tallahassee jury convicted Charlie Adelson of first-degree murder.
With the jury having found you guilty of all 3 counts that you were charged with in your indictment of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and solicitation to commit first-degree murder, I am going to adjudicate you guilty of all 3 at this time, and you are going to be sentenced as follows. As to count 1, the first-degree murder count pursuant to section 782.04 and 775.082 Florida statutes, you are sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of release or parole. As to count 2, you are going to be sentenced consecutively to 30 years in the Department of Corrections for conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. As to count 3, you are going to be sentenced to 30 years in the Department of Corrections consecutively for solicitation to commit first-degree murder. The credit for time served that applies in this matter is how much?
597.
597 days will be applied as credit for time served in this case. 30 days to appeal both your conviction and now your sentence. Mr. Adelson, you are going to be fingerprinted today, and from here you are going to be sent to the Department of Corrections to begin serving your sentence.
1 week after her son's conviction, 75-year-old Donna Adelson was standing on a jet bridge at Miami International Airport, one-way ticket to Vietnam in hand. Police surrounded her before she could board.
No mistake. There's 2 mistakes.
In September 2025, after only 3 hours of jury deliberation, Donna Adelson was found guilty on all counts. The following month, in October 2025, she was formally sentenced. Life in prison without the possibility of parole.
We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the indictment, first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Mrs. Adelson, control yourself. Count 2. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 2 of the indictment, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Count 3. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 3 of the indictment, solicitation to commit first-degree murder. The defendant is guilty of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. And it is signed and dated by the foreperson. 1 moment. Members of the jury, the bailiff will escort you to the jury room.
The woman who couldn't accept a judge telling her no will spend the rest of her life inside a system that never gives her another chance to ask. Her grandsons, the 2 little boys this entire case was supposedly about, grew up without their father, and now without the grandmother who claims she did it all out of love for them. Dan Markel spent his career as a scholar of justice, writing about why the law matters and how it should hold people accountable. He never got to see it hold his own family accountable. It just took the system 11 years longer than it should have. That 11-year delay comes down to one fatal blind spot: how struggling legal systems handle individuals who refuse to take no for an answer because of who their family is.
Good evening, my name is Phil Markel. I'm Danny's father. Think about the impact of Donna Adelson's actions on my families and the families of so many others. I would like them to understand and reflect on the deep and irreparable damage they have caused. The pain that they have caused my family is obvious and permanent, but they have also caused lifelong harm to their own immediate family and so many other families and children around. Donna's selfishness, cruelty, and complete disrespect for human life, along with that of her co-conspirators, have left families forever broken.
While the Adelsons used generational wealth to buy that armor, we saw that exact same dangerous pattern play out when Hannah Freeman began terrorizing her boyfriend. She didn't just ignore boundaries, she weaponized the justice system itself, operating under the assumption that her father's position as police chief meant the rules simply didn't apply to her. The terrifying paper trail of how she used that familial authority to trap a partner, and how the system finally broke through her protection, is waiting for you in the breakdown right here.